You can't find it.
Not really.
Okay, let me request remote control access so that you give me, then I'll do it from my end.
Okay. I hope everything is okay. So now what you are doing is you can just call users, then call get users. Now when you call the get users, you don't really care about the database instantiation. You don't really care about how data is being fetched from the database. Yours is just to call get users. And that's what data abstraction comes in. There are a lot of hidden processing going on behind getting users, but yours is you don't care about what happens. Yours is to retrieve the data. And that's what data abstraction comes in. And this is very important when it comes to OOP because it helps you to structure your code, organize your code, and just present what is needed by the end user to make use without letting them know what is behind the entire processing. I hope this is okay for the start. Or someone still doesn't get it.
I think someone raised his hands. Ronnie.
Okay.
Hello, I have raised my hand. Can
Okay.
you mute all the mics? Can you mute all the mics? Clearly, because there is a lot of noise. I'm muting my mic.
Okay, great.
What's he saying? I didn't get him.
I think he's complaining of the noise in the background and he has muted his mic now, so I think okay.
Okay. So,
hello, Entry, can you mute your mic? Entry, your mic is on. Kindly mute your mic. Hello, Entry. Kindly mute your mic. Thank you. Okay, Oliver.
Yeah, so I'm asking whether everyone is okay with the abstraction explanation. Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
so kindly type yes if you are getting it.
Okay. I think everyone is okay now, right? Let me go to the chat. Okay. So let's continue. If you have further questions, just raise up your hand, then we continue with that. So that will be about data abstraction, and it's really important. The other concept that we're talking about is inheritance and composition. So as I said earlier, when you are building an application, there are some objects that might be quite related. And that means you don't have to rewrite, you don't have to write code for each kind of class. You just have to make use of the existing class that you created and make use of either the properties or the methods. And in that case, it helps you to reduce the amount of code that you write and reuse code in many areas of your project. And composition and inheritance are quite related. But for just amount of time, I'll just explain a bit of it. And I have a link to a post that I wrote in 2018 about inheritance and composition. So you can go there and read a bit more about it. So you use composition when one class cannot exist without the other. So let's say that in application, your application is pretty defined to use a database. Meaning if the database doesn't exist, your application cannot work. So in that case, any code that is to get data from some sort of data should work directly with the database. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to extend to the database, or you are going to like inject into the database? So inheritance and composition, through composition, you get to know how you can make use of the database in your class, and inheritance, you get to know how you can use it. So with the example that we did earlier regarding the database aspect, you get to know that I did. You get to know that I did not extend. I did not say extend. Extend database, right? I didn't say this. The reason why I did not say this is because the users cannot exist completely without the database. Please, someone is destroying my ears. Can someone mute? Who is that? Someone is making noise, so Bright. Bright. Hello. 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 Wow. Hello. Hello. Wow. Hello. Hello. Hello.
I'm no longer the host.
Okay. Hello. Wow. Okay, let's continue. If I'm not hearing from anyone.
One second, Oliver sir, 1 second. I want to, can you mute all the mics? I'm distracted of the noises. Can you mute
Hello,
all the
Oliver.
mics?
Yeah.
Make me the host. Let me mute all the mics. Okay.
Okay.
I think when you click on the participants,
Okay.
when you click on the participants, then quick right, you make me the host.
Are you okay with it now? Are you okay with it?
Yeah. So I've muted everyone. Let me make you the host now. Can you hear me, Oliver? Can you hear me, Oliver?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go on.
Okay. So I think I have to divide this into two so that the charts. So Bright.
Yeah.
So in case someone asks a question, just let me know so that I can know what to do best for that person.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So as I was saying, with composition and inheritance, we can know that the class is going to make use of the database. This user can't work without a database. So there's no need for you to use this as an inheritance. You have to use this as a composition. And that's why I do not say class users implement database. You can't do this. So what you have to do is to use it as composition. And composition, what you have to do is just have to name it as the name of the class with this. But as of now, some version of PHP do not allow you to you should mention the type when you are creating properties. So that's why I did omitted in this aspect. So what I'm saying is that with composition, you are just injecting the class that you are going that cannot exist, that the class can't work with, can work without it. No. So with composition, the class should work with the other class exactly. If that class is not supposed to work with it, who is confusing me here? If that class can work without it, then you should use inheritance. But if not, you have to use composition. So that's why the database class has been injected in the constructor. So in this case, anytime you are instantiating the user class, you have to make use of the database. And that is very key important about composition. You can read more about composition. I've provided link in the later part of the slide, so you can use it and read more about composition as well. It's a very nice concept that you have to get or understand.
Oliver.
Yeah.
So someone is asking, he says, if you use extents,
Yeah.
that's a keyword extents,
Yeah.
won't it achieve similar results? Or better, the composition is right to use? So he's asking the extents and the composition, which one is better?
So it will work, right? It's going to work for you. But the point is, you have to understand like the whole code, because if someone picks the code and the person is reading the code, the person have to have a bigger intuition of what the whole thing is about. So here, I can just, if it's extending, I'll just say extends database, right? And what this one is saying is that this user is a database. But this user is not a database, that is inheritance. If you are doing inheritance, you have something that is relationship and you have something that has relationship. So users, if you are using composition, you read that user has a database, right? But if you are using inheritance, you say users is a database, but users is not, they are not database. Are you okay?
Yes. Yeah, he says it's okay. He says it's okay.
Yeah. So if you read more about inheritance and composition, you get to know the relationship. You have it's a relationship and you have has a relationship. Inheritance tells about it's a relationship, and composition talks about has a relationship. So users has a database, but you can't say users is a database class.
Okay, somebody is also asking, if you use composition, do you have to require the path to the database class?
Okay, so you talk about the path loading later. We talk about SPL auto loading, which is one key feature in PHP. Still, you have to load the database. Any class that you have to load them. You talk about how you can easily load classes without having to load them manually. So whether you're using inheritance or composition, you have to load them, but it's a better way around it. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a big gist about inheritance and composition. The next one that we will talk about is the. So I gave an example about the composition. So you have a class for house. Then we have a bathhouse, right? And this bathhouse is extended to a house because we say bathhouse is a house. But in a bathhouse, you can have something like tab and others. So you can say a bathhouse has a tab, but I didn't find them. Oh.
Hello?
Yeah. I want to find the person who has unmuted the mic.
Okay, so let me do that from here.
Okay.
Okay, so I've muted it. And I'm unmuting you. Okay, Oliver, go on.
Okay. So composition inheritance talks about the relationship that you can have within your code, which is more of is enhanced relationship. So you talk about the next aspect, which is about polymorphism. So polymorphism comes in handy when you have kind of different classes that are kind of doing the same thing. So what it's saying that all methods that are in different classes but doing the same thing should happen, so that you really know that if you have users, you can have a user class and you can have other type of users. So let's continue with it just like that. So we have can you hear for me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So we have polymorphism that helps you kind of use the same name of different classes. So let's take this example. We have a shape, and a shape can help us to calculate an area. But you can have different kinds of shape. You have circle, you can have rectangle, you can have square. But we can calculate the names of, we can calculate the areas of circle, rectangle, and square. But instead of you having different methods like calculate square area, calculate rectangle area, calculate circle area, all these, they are all doing the same thing, but just that their parameters, but the whole thing is they are doing the same thing. So what you have to do is to create one, to have the same name for all the four, all the methods that will be implemented in classes. So to achieve polymorphism is basically about having the same name for all kind of methods that will be implemented in different classes. And to achieve that, you can use interface and abstract classes. So with interface, it's just telling you to just list the method that you want to have on some objects. It groups all the objects together, and any class that has to do with using some of these methods, we just have to implement that interface. The only difference between interface and abstract class will be that with abstract class, you can have properties in it. So you can have properties like you have a username, you have for user. You can have different kind of users. You can have normal users, you can have admin, you can have super users. But if they are to log into your system, the entire kind of method that you are going to use use login. But you can say, okay, all users have names, all users have password. So in that case, you can put username and password within abstract class. But username and password cannot be put in interface. Interface just defines the methods, and it will be implemented by the class that implements it. I hope we get the difference between them. So let's get into the editor. Yeah. Let's talk a bit about that. You can define interface for user, and user can do login. So login. And the login takes in username and let's say password. This is for interface. But if you are using after class, what you have to do is you can say that since all users has since all users have username and password, you can put them here so that we can just use them in any parts or properties cannot be declared abstract. Okay. Yeah. Then you can have your public function login here, and this can make use of, instead of passing the username here, let's say login is having access to database or something, so you pass the username and something to a database. So let's just say DB because new database. I'm just guessing out of this. Then you pass the username. So let's imagine that with the interface, it sends the username and the password to a database. Here, with abstract class, what you can do is just define the user and the password in the abstract class. And instead of passing them through the login function, you can use them straightforward in the class. So that differentiates between interface and abstract class. With interface, you can't have this to here. You can't have it here. It will never work for you because its functionality is just declare the methods and it will be implemented by the classes that are going to use it. So that will be much about polymorphism. So you can read more about polymorphism and its importance. I think time is run up, so you have to still try as much as possible to finish the whole thing and work on a sample application. So one other thing that we'll be talking about is the auto-loading. So auto-loading is, instead of you loading all the classes one after the other, let's say you have about 30 classes. You can see require this class, require this class, require this class. You then have about 30 lines of requiring all the classes. But PHP is very brilliant. That makes it easier for us to load all classes at once. And the method that helps us to do that is SQL auto-load register. All it does is takes in a callback function that that takes the link to all the paths and just register them into your application. So if the file that you provided or the link you provided is you just load it. If not, it throws an error for you. For me, it's a very brilliant way of reducing boilerplate code in your the code that you are writing. So we talk about SQL auto-load when we are working on the MVC project. So that is a bit about it. What is left is chaining. Chaining is also one of the concepts that comes in handy when you are using objects. So if you are someone from the Angular, you've heard about pipe, how you can pipe data or kind of methods. Like you have a method, say a class A user, then you can pipe other operation on the user without having to use the methods on the user one after the other. It's very good way of doing that. making use of code in just one line without